Kate Northrup is in the house, and I am really, really, really excited about it. Hi.
Hi.
I don't even really know where to start because I read your book, Do Less. I don't know. I think I had my son in 2017, and your sister, Ann Mahler, who's a beautiful singer and entrepreneur and human being. I mean, she's really incredible. She sent me your book.
Really?
Yes, that's.
Aww.
She said,
Annie.
"Oh my God, isn't that the best when your sister loves you like that?"
My sister is, she's like an angel incarnate.
I was going to call her an oracle.
Yeah, she is an
I'll take
oracle, and
angel.
she's also like my biggest fan, and she's so sweet.
Yeah, she really is something special. So she sent me your book right after I had my son.
Wow.
Do Less, which is like, oh my God, is that the best mantra ever?
I know some people find it very irritating.
Why? Why would anyone find that irritating?
Because we're so conditioned that we have to do more and that that our value is in doing more. And then people like really get off on being so busy. And then people are actually busy with a lot going on. Sure. And so they just read the title, do less, and they find it very triggering. And they're like, easy for you to say, I can't do less. The whole world revolves around is on my shoulders and whatever. And so,
I actually
it's not been welcomed by everyone.
Well, it was welcomed by me. It was welcomed by me because I just think I actually, if you read the book, so don't judge a book by its cover, because if you read the book, and the whole point of it is how can you be more productive? How can you be more of service in your life?
Yeah. How
can you enjoy this world? How can you manage your stress in a way that's not overwhelming? Mm-hmm. So it's not like do less and be just like a sack of shit on the couch.
No, it is not about being on the beach, like drinking Mai Tais.
So sometimes.
All the time. Just sometimes.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
No, I loved your book. And I've been taking your course, Relaxed Money, which has been, this has nothing to do with money, this one comment, but I've had a very busy week. And touching base with that course has been really, really, really helpful for me because you, unlike a lot of people who do talk about money, you're not talking about it in terms of mindset. It's actually, it's nervous system work, which we haven't talked about on this podcast. And it's something that is newer to me. I have a polyvagal coach for performance.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. But I haven't ever been able to like really articulate what that work is, and we have the expert here. So can you do it?
I mean, I can't articulate what polyvagal work is, but I can talk about the nervous system in general, and like polyvagal theory is like a subset.
Yes.
Okay.
But how does nervous system work even relate to money, abundance, savings, how you spend, etc.?
Well, it relates to everything. So basically, the nervous system is a system of our body that's like basically like the basement, right? So every system of our body is dependent on what's going on with the nervous system. So our immune system, our endocrine system, our digestive system, every single system is linked into what's going on with the nervous system. So the nervous system is this foundational sort of like the soil of your body, of your whole well-being. And our nervous system is this network of nerves, obviously. It's connected.
It's a system
of nerves.
Yeah. Okay.
It's connected to our brain, our spinal cord, and all through our body. And it makes all these micro adjustments without us having to think about things. That essentially is keeping us alive. So great. It also fundamentally is impacting like the vast majority of our behavior. And so we think we're making all these conscious decisions with our prefrontal cortex, which is like our conscious brain. But actually what's happening is we have nervous system imprints and nervous system imprints. So our nervous system develops in our formative years, basically like before the age of 7, although there's some really interesting data specifically from Gabor Mate in his book. What's his book called? The normal one?
The Myth of
Normal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. About how
I've read all of them. I'm just like,
how it's so much is even pre-verbal and like maybe even before we've even been born. So there's a whole bit, and we can talk about the different layers. But
I mean, no pressure, guys. who are parents, by the way.
I know.
Because the good news is there are things.
It's plastic.
It's
like
plastic.
It's all changeable.
Yeah,
So,
I just always like to.
Yes, up front, exactly. So all these nervous system imprints, it's like we have a thermostat setting, and the environment in our childhood sets the thermostat setting.
Did you ever read Psycho-Cybernetics?
No?
Or the Big Leap?
The Big Leap, yes.
Yeah. So they talk 100%. About this.
But Gay Hendricks doesn't talk about the nervous system.
And I really appreciate that you do, because
I freaking love Gay. He's like such a rock star.
Yeah, but you're like rock star times 10, because
we all like, we bring in our own layer.
I really appreciate what you're doing, because what Gay Hendricks says in that book, The Big Leap, is that sure, we have what's comfortable for us. What's comfortable for us is what we know.
Right.
And what we know is, for many of us, the status quo isn't where we want to be. So we have to take that big leap forward, and it can be quite uncomfortable.
Yes.
We have to sort of bust through. I'm oversimplifying, but you give tools on how to do that.
And like, it's even like, it's tricky talking about, I mean, again, I'm a huge fan of The Big Leap. So this is like all.
And also it was written a while ago.
All enthusiasm. And in order to make those leaps and like, quote unquote, bust through it and not go back into contraction, there's actually a specific way to do it. So these thermostat settings are like based on the amount of joy or abundance or safety or calm that was kind of the room tone in our home growing up. And that is what our nervous system downloads or like imprints as normal and therefore safe.
Yeah.
And so what is familiar is noted as safe. And then anything that is unfamiliar is noted as unsafe, according to the nervous system. Now, of course, all of our dreams and desires are generally in the unfamiliar.
Yeah, I mean,
which is why we sabotage ourselves.
I know. I know it so well.
Yeah.
It's funny because last night I was, in front of thousands of people singing my favorite music. Yeah.
That's so exciting.
And my nervous system was like, danger, 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 danger.
Yeah, I mean, this is why public speaking is like worse than the fear of death.
I mean, and we do it we do it anyway, because I don't know, because the thrill is really thrilling.
The thrill is good.
Yeah. But how do we do it without the crash at the other end?
Right. Yeah.
Et cetera. How do we do it and make it our new
normal, or like expand those edges? So we can use a tool or like a whatever called titration, where we do just like a little bit. We notice an edge. So it's like, okay, well, what would be really make me feel like I'm going to die is singing in front of 3,000 people, right?
Yes.
And so like you've done a lot of performance. So that's probably not going to make you feel like you're going to die completely. Like it's not out of the realm, and you did it and it was awesome and you felt the rush. Totally. Right. But like probably there would be something that at this point would not be something that you could go all the way. Like what's an example of something that you're like, okay, this is maybe close to my desire, but it also makes me feel like I want to die.
I
not want to. I'm going to.
Right. Or am dying.
Yeah, right. Or am dying.
Feeling.
Yeah. It's a very real feeling, because according to your nervous system, being out of the norm, being in the unfamiliar, is death. It's so fundamentally survival strategy.
So I've been on TV a few times, and every time I can feel my whole heart inside my throat in those first few moments. Because I want it. There's also a level of wanting that can feel like I want this so badly, and that's overwhelming.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah. And so, I mean, for some of it is like just repetition makes it feel more safe. But the other thing that we can do, like when it comes to personal development, so much of more of the old school personal development is like flooding the system. So it's like going all the way to like, let's say somebody's afraid of, public speaking, like the leader of the workshop will like pull them up on stage and have them talk in front of 3,000 people, which for people who are survivors of trauma where they didn't have scenarios where they had consent.
At will, right? This is
at will. It's all about feeling like you have a say and you have agency and you have choice. So when you are working with someone who has not had a history of feeling like they have consent and choice, doing that in a high pressure scenario can be really re-traumatizing and can send people into contraction, and it's not nervous system informed. It's not trauma informed. And so there are ways that we can work really more gently so that we slow down to speed up.
Which is what you're doing with this money course. So Marty, she's one of the producers and she's in the room. She was on one of the episodes where we talked about money, and we both were like, oh, come on. Like, it's so easy to talk about abundance is your birthright. And the two of us were sort of like, we got to get into this. Like there are people being laid off and we have to have reality around this. And I really find that like the way you talk about money is so honest. In that you're like, I'm not, we have to be real that we have to save and that many of us were not born into money or are in careers that are, I love the reality that you bring into it because that also makes me feel safe.
Yes. Because it's gaslighting otherwise.
Yes.
And so many people were like gaslit their entire lives. And so that's re-traumatizing to be like, I'm having an experience and now this person is telling me that that's not real. And it's the issue just with my mindset, or like, I've lacked consciousness. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there are pieces of that.
Oh, sure.
But also sometimes you have to pay your rent. And so how can we bring in like the mystical and the physical, and like, I love to marry the 3D and the 5D together.
Yeah, you do a beautiful job at it. Yeah, I'm really grateful for that. I'm going to introduce you in the beginning, but I actually didn't have you introduce yourself.
Oh.
Who are you today?
Who am I today? Oh my God. Well, who am I today? That's a tricky question to answer. So I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I'm a writer and I am a thinker, and I'm really like a researcher on what it means to have the fullest version of the life that we can have in this particular incarnation. So what that looks like now is I teach people how to have a better relationship with their money and how to have a better relationship with their work and time. And essentially at the end of the day, that is a conversation about power.
Can you tell me more about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Our various resources, whether they be our energy, our time, or our money, are tools of power in the world for making change or creating the reality we want to create. And not power over, but power with. Like, how can we power, meaning the ability to do work? That's like the physics definition.
Is it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you'd have to ask Mr. Biscup, who was my senior year physics teacher, but like, I'm pretty sure that's what I remember.
You're not a scientist?
I have a degree in art history.
Wow.
Yeah, totally unrelated.
You're a thinker, though.
I'm a thinker. I do think about things, and I do love data. So anyway, the ability to essentially be at will, like the ability to create something that we want to create a change, create something. And so that's power. And so money, time, and our work and our energy levels are ways that we can express our internal power, our life force, like the animating force that makes it so that we're not just like these lumps of flesh, that we're like a human, like an animated soul in this body. I don't know exactly what we're doing here, but
either.
That
right now we're just having a chat.
Power. And so it's really like, what are we here to do? How can we do that in the fullest sense that we were designed to do? And so so I write books, I teach courses, I'm starting a podcast.
Yeah, you are.
Restarting a podcast.
I was just saying, we were talking before we got on air that for me, your podcast in 2016, isn't that when your daughter was born?
She was born in 2015. So we started a podcast 1 year after my first daughter was born.
Wow. I thought that was pretty early on. I mean, I think you've always been on the,
I've been at this for a long time. I mean, I'm like one of the online personal development geriatric people.
I don't know.
Like, I mean, it's been since like 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
So I've been around.
Yeah. So, so when you tell me things like, oh, we had a podcast, I'm like, I already know because I've been following you and I like know about your daughter. Actually, I think that's pretty pertinent to the conversation because a lot changed for you when you did become a mother. Yeah. Isn't that right? Like you were already in the personal development space.
Yes.
You had already written Money, a Love Story.
Yeah. Money, a Love Story came out in 2013. But when I had Penelope, it dramatically changed my relationship with work and with time. Because as you know, like, it was like when you don't have kids, you have so much time. And I had no idea. And then I was like, WTF, like this is really hard.
Also,
and also anything I said prior to becoming a mom, like let's just cross it off.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Also, like get out the whiteout.
Seriously, I like apologize to my mother all the time. Oh, my grandmother.
I mean, I'm embarrassed that I even wrote a book. Like, I mean, it's just like, oh God, I don't know what I said in there. It's just really different when suddenly you have a human that you're responsible for taking care of and just like you have to be required to become so much more boundaried and devoted and efficient. And like it really dramatically, it also like being pregnant, I'm not like a joyful, luscious pregnant person.
Which is weird because you are really joyful and luscious.
When I'm not pregnant.
Okay.
When I am pregnant, I'm just very tired and bloated.
And making human life.
But, you know, some people have the experience of like, oh my God, I love being pregnant. Yeah. I've never felt so feminine. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. Yeah. Not my experience.
So happy for you.
So I just was like so tired and couldn't do anything. Like I had no mental energy. I had no energy. And it was the first time in my life that I couldn't overcome a challenge I was having by being smarter or like trying harder or being stronger.
Yeah.
None of my tools worked. Like none of my tricks.
In pregnancy.
And also having a child. Yeah. Where it was just like, I am being forced to learn what the feminine is and to learn about surrender and to ask myself the question, who am I if I'm not capable? Like, am I valuable if I'm not productive? Do I even get to exist? And so I had to come like, it was a real identity crisis.
I just find it so interesting that you empower people around money, time, and energy when those three resources, key resources that sort of equal power, really dwindle right postpartum. They really just naturally do. Babies are expensive. Yes. You know, like we don't sleep that much, right? These are real, and productivity in work does decline. I think that should just be said outright with no shame involved.
I would say external, like results based.
Oh, you're right. Productivity.
Well, I mean, like
you literally produce a human being.
Creating a human. I mean, when I was pregnant, I was like, gosh, this is so weird. I'm not doing anything. And yet I'm doing the most productive thing I've ever done. So it set off this exploration that has continued about the invisible versus the visible and how our culture, you know, patriarchy is really obsessed with the visible, with the masculine, like what we can see, results, like prove it to me. And
it's why that people would be triggered by a book that says do less.
Thank you. Yes.
Because
just we've been indoctrinated that we are what we do. And so
that's super masculine, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which doesn't make it, I don't think all men are bad, just for the record. It's just like that idea that we would have to do more. It is possible for a man whose body never gets sort of hijacked by human life.
Even men are really harmed by this idea that they are like, it's so the unbalanced masculine in me is just as harmful as the unbalanced masculine in a man or in a trans person. Like it's not really about gender. It's just about the energy in us. And we just have a culture that's hyper identified with the masculine. Yeah. And we're in a time where it is really important to bring out the parts in all of us that haven't been celebrated as valuable for thousands of years, which was very much on purpose. So that's a whole other conversation.
But I do think it's changing because I'm like backstage in doing this play right now with a few like women in their 20s, and they are not taking shit.
Good.
Like all that stuff around show business, and this is like, will theater people do it this way? No.
Great.
I'm really excited about it.
love
I think
that.
like the kids are all right.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
Cool.
It really is inspiring to be around a bunch of young women who are not just letting, I don't know, they're just not letting things slide in a way that I 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know if I had to or I thought I had to, but I'm pretty sure I had to.
Yeah.
If I wanted to keep working.
I know. It's like painful.
It's
but
so
then
icky.
It's icky.
so
but
icky.
here's, I was talking to my girlfriend
and
this
exciting
morning.
all at once.
And I think there's a level at which, like, if we can learn, and I think this is advanced, but I think there's a level at which, and it obviously seems like you're doing this advanced practice that I just came up with this morning, which is, or I just like articulated, which is like, if we can get in tune on an energetic level, and I think we can do this when we're able to regulate ourselves. And on that energetic level, like when we are regulated, there's something called, co-regulation. So if my nervous system is regulated and you're dysregulated, you can regulate with mine or vice versa. Because the animal part of our bodies recognizes unity. And there's a level at which, like, a woman in her 20s that you're in a show with right now, getting to experience something that you didn't get to experience, if you can recognize that her experiencing that also means you are experiencing that on some timeline, like collapsed timeline where all time and space is now, and that she gets to have it, and therefore you too also get to have it, as opposed to the bullshit thing that, internalized patriarchy did, which is like set women against each other.
Oh no, yeah.
And like to have older women taking down younger women and women, like all of that. And so I just think it's really beautiful to celebrate that, like, the generation or the generations after us are going to get to experience a different experience. And I know that, like, that's true of our mom's generation.
I know.
Right?
I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking, like, I was thanking this girl in the dressing room in my head.
As you do.
No, because I was like saying, like, that really wasn't cool. And she goes, go tell the producer right now. You really should go tell him, because it really wasn't cool. And so I did. And I had a moment this morning where I was just thanking her in my mind. And I thought, there was a time when I would say, I would sort of berate myself or the generation of women before, but who paved the way for this sweet girl, this sweet 24-year-old girl, to mentor me?
Yeah.
Who did that? The generations of women before her.
Yeah.
So it was such a beautiful moment. I really think that we're evolving past a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
Same.
Yeah. Okay, back to Penelope. So they're gonna be great. Our girls?
Yeah. You have
I have 2 kids. Ness is 6. He's a little boy.
Yeah.
And Paz is a little girl who's 3.5. Aww. Yeah, they're really sweet. I like them a lot. Penelope is going into first or second
she's
grade?
going into second. She'll be 8 in September, and Ruby just turned 5 in April.
Wow. Yeah. Do you feel like you turned a corner having 2, like your second one being 5?
Yes. Actually, I felt like we turned a corner when she turned 4, and then there was an additional corner when she turned 5.
We're just turning.
Really feel like I was just talking to some old friends last night, and I was like, I really feel like it took me a long time to enjoy being a mom. And I finally, in the last year, I'm like, oh, this is why people talk about how awesome it is.
Tell me.
I'm like, this is really fun. And before, it was just kind of hard and boring. I loved my kids, obviously, from the moment they came out, like would die for them. And also was very bored.
So bored.
And now they're really interesting, and they're like funny, and we can have conversations, and they're just like cracking me up, and they've been cute the whole time.
Yeah.
But now they really also are cute. Interesting.
I've seen pictures.
And we can do way more things that I too enjoy doing. It's great. I'm having a great time.
I gotta tell you, you saying that out loud, I think is like, I can just hear the sigh of relief on the other end of whoever's listening to this. Cause like there are people who really feel shitty about the fact that they're not enjoying every second. Ugh, every second?
I know.
That's a lot of
then
seconds.
When the older women look at you in the grocery store and they're like, enjoy every minute. It goes by so fast. And I'm like, oh my God, you enjoy every minute. Like, this sucks.
Well, they're just like projecting. I don't know. Totally.
And I get it, because even now, I see my friends with babies and I'm like, oh,
I
little
know.
bubble
I
goes so
know.
fast, but I don't say that out
No, you
loud.
can't say
That's
that
an
out loud.
internal.
We know that. We know that
internal
now.
thing I say in my head.
But I do feel like that level of like hard and bored, at least from the outside, and I really have been following you for a long time. I know so much about you. It's great. It's just like a great bunch of knowledge I have in my mind about you and your knowledge, which is profound.
I know about you.
You are a
and
thinker.
I know about what you know.
Essentially. But it did feel like a breakthrough, a breakdown to breakthrough.
Yeah.
Isn't that sort of what happened?
For sure. I mean, yeah, my post-birth the pregnancy, the birth, that was a year and a half of like dark times.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it was a really long time. And then like we had like a brief break, and then my husband got really sick the moment my daughter Ruby was born. The moment I pushed her
I'm
out.
sorry, I rolled my eyes. I don't mean to roll my eyes at you, Mike.
I have a hard eye roll for this as well.
I'm so
but
sorry.
He like broke out in a full body rash, which he's still on this journey with his skin, and it's so much better. But we've been first, it was like really hard with Penelope, and then it was 5 years after Ruby. I mean, for her whole life, it's been a real journey. So, just a lot of reckoning with like, what is life actually supposed to be? And like, how do we find the joy even when like your husband just got hit by a car or like can't get out of bed, or, you know, your babies are having blowouts everywhere, or just like whatever.
So how do you, because I do experience, you walked through the door. Like, I follow you on social media, and you could totally be lying that whole time. I mean, you could. But now I take your course.
Would be hard.
It would be hard because you do show up every day. But I take your course, and you giggle, and you're joyful, and you're curious, and you're right. Like, you listed a whole bunch of shit that really went down that was not easy, but you come to it with such joy and gusto. What is that? How?
No, I think some of us we're just made the way we're
Oh
made.
yeah.
I do. I mean, I do think that like some people are just like a little more naturally wired towards the positive, sometimes to detriment. Like one of my life lessons,
Really?
Yes. One of my life lessons is to really sometimes just be okay with not being okay, and not like bypass it by being like, oh, it's not that bad. Or like, you know, like things can absolutely suck, and I can be like, I'm fine.
And is it true? But is it true that you would be fine?
In the moment.
Because I can't relate. The reason why is because as everyone in this room, maybe not everyone, but definitely Marty can attest, I can't relate. I'm like, if it's bad, it's
You just
so
say it's
bad.
so bad.
It's so bad.
Because it is.
I don't know. It feels that way.
No, I don't realize things are bad until I'm through them.
Okay.
And then in retrospect, I look. Like when I say to you, you know, my husband broke out in a full body rash the moment my second daughter was born, and then basically was like, has been some level of incapacitated ever since, even though like he comes back with a vengeance, and like had 2 biking accidents in the meantime. And like, he's either been on crutches or like been massively inflamed. I mean, it's been like so crazy. And I say that out loud, and I'm like, that sounds really hard. But I don't know that. And I do think this is a coping mechanism.
Okay.
And something I'll continue to work on with my own nervous system. But it's like, sometimes we can't have the capacity to feel how bad things are in the moment, because then we won't have the energy to actually tend to the daily needs of like the family.
Yeah.
And then it's afterwards, I'll have like a breakdown. Like, so first time Mike got sick in 2018, or no, what was that? I don't know. I don't know what time it is, what timelines are, but basically like I sat at my doctor's 6 months after. Yes, it was 6 months after the worst of it. And I was like, I have no hair. Like all of my hair has fallen out. And it wasn't on the timeline of the 3 to 4 month window postpartum where like, of course you lose your hair. That's like normal, right? With the hormone fluctuation.
Yes, that is normal.
It wasn't that timeline. So I was like, what's going on? And she was asking me about my life and whatever. And she was like, oh, it's very common to lose your hair 6 to 9 months after an incredibly stressful event. And I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? It's like, and to me, that was sort of this symbolic thing of like, my body and my whole self was like holding on. And then when it could finally exhale, all my hair fell out.
Wow.
So it was just like, oh, we don't have to hold on anymore. Which sucked because then I didn't have any hair, but it came back.
No, your hair looks great. I think about, that how you like stood by him. It's beautiful. That love. You guys are, and your partners in business, aren't you?
Yes, we are. He came back, and so we started, like, I started off on my own, but like things really picked up speed when Mike came on board.
Really?
Because he's like super logistics man. Like,
Great.
He is like the foundation of all foundations. Like, he's systems, king of systems. So he came in, things picked up speed. Then from 2016 to like 2020, we went through a variety of iterations. And then in 2020, he left the day-to-day operations. And then through a series of unfortunate events, I basically blew some things up behind the scenes, which I won't get into, but it was not awesome.
So you're human?
Yeah.
What?
It was like really, it was not pretty. And I basically was like, I pulled a damsel in distress, and I was like, babe, I need you to come back and help me fix
but is that
this. And
damsel in
he was
distress?
like, I will happily do that.
Hey.
And it's been great.
I'm going to call you out on that.
Yeah.
You just pulled I need help.
I did. Yeah. And it's been like,
I told my daughter,
good for our marriage, honestly.
Great.
Yeah.
Because he can hold you.
Yeah. And he's just like, let me come in there. Let me fix that for you.
I
like,
love
very
that so
similar
much.
to like when I break my computer. And he's like, just get out of your chair. I'll fix it for you. Go get yourself a cup of tea and come back and it'll be fixed.
I love that.
So anyway, so right now, yeah, he's been back in the day-to-day running operations for like 9 months, and it's awesome.
I have to believe, though, that some of what is getting you through hard times, although now it seems pretty chill.
Yeah, we're in a pretty stable time. He's having a skin flare, but he'll be okay.
You know what? That's his skin.
Yeah. Totally. Oh my God. And that's been the thing also. And I think this is maybe just like a marriage lesson and probably a parenting lesson too, is like and I had taught, I don't know how caught you are on Relax Money, but that exercise I taught the other day of like, it's called, so previews of coming attractions.
Great.
It's called.
I have to take it slow. She told the class you could take it slow. In fact, that is a nervous system informed
totally
way of doing this.
One
and
module every 2
for
weeks.
me, I need to take it
totally slow. I love that.
Thank you.
And I also have a lot of idea density. So like a lot comes out in those sessions.
I know. It's why I sat down and I was like, the fuck are we going to talk about? This woman has endless ideas. So much research. Anyway, go on. So this could go on for literally ever.
The practice I came up with is called Where Do I Begin and End? And so it's inspired by this practice I was taught by our holistic pediatrician, which is like basically doing like a squeeze. Do you do that on your kids?
It's a deep tissue like massage or
kind of, yeah. But it's also like really good for kids with sensory issues.
Yes, my sister does it.
Okay, yeah, it's really great. So
if you're watching on YouTube, you can see us squeezing our arms, and you guys can try it now too if you'd like.
And you can do your whole body. So I led everyone in the class through the whole thing. But so that's like a literal like nervous system healing technique, which I invented. So, like feel free to
you didn't invent
fact check
it.
me.
I've done that at OT. Like my sister.
Really? Okay, good. So I intuitively tuned into it.
You know what
That's
you did
helpful.
was you took something that kids do.
Yeah.
Or we do as a therapeutic method
and
for kids to chill them out
adults.
when they're having a freak out. You just applied it to adults because it turns out we're just like bigger, same.
So totally
true.
So
it feels nice.
When you're talking about like, oh, it's my husband's skin, it's not mine. That's been a huge growth for me of like, he can be having a hard time and I can stay in my good time. And that doesn't mean I'm abandoning him. It doesn't mean I'm being like a bitch. It doesn't help. And this is just true. Like, we cannot get sick enough to help sick people. We cannot get miserable enough to help miserable people. I'm not saying my husband's miserable. He's not. But like, that's just like true. And I think we have, some of us have misunderstood and have been misled about what compassion means. And sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do is actually like maintain and cultivate our own joy and well-being so that we can raise the tone of the situation as opposed to like all go down together.
Yeah. I'm pausing just so that we can underline that because that feels so important. so important. I remember you writing about that. You said, Mike was in an accident, and guess what I did? I went ahead and took care of myself because the doctors were taking care of him. And like, there's no amount of you being upset that's going to ever make him better. He's better now. Just to let the audience know, like he's better now.
He still walks with a limp, but he's got like a little
but he's
swag.
like a sexy,
It's, cute.
It's a sexy limp. Nice.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of cute.
So happy
He's
for him.
like slightly dragging a leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm funny.
I know.
I love that so much. I think you answered a question on Relaxed Money the other day, which was there was a woman, and I know people like this. I'm not one of them, but I know people like this who feel tremendous guilt about having an inheritance.
Yeah. This is very common.
Mm-hmm. Maybe talk about it. And I think this beyond money has a lot to to do with if you're beautiful, if you're healthy, if you're privileged in any way.
Right. So when we get into the conversation about privilege, whether it's about class, race, gender, there's so, ability, beauty. We don't talk about beauty privilege nearly enough. But anyway, this is the whole thing, right?
The whole thing.
And like, what does beauty even mean? Whole other conversation. But like, so I think unfortunately, there's a part of the conversation and a way that the conversation can go that can essentially say the best way to handle your privilege, it's misunderstood of like, you should feel guilty about it.
Or shame, which is
guilt or shame about it. And what I've really realized is feeling guilt or shame about privilege, you can acknowledge your privilege and also use it for good. Mm-hmm. But feeling guilty or shameful about it helps zero people.
It's the
the opposite.
It hurts people.
It hurts people. It also centers you. It's like a whole thing. And that's not really what today's conversation is about, but it is really important to realize, like, financially speaking, resources are meant to flow. Money is not meant to accumulate and stagnate. Money is like water. Water is meant to flow. When it stagnates, it gets toxic and unhealthy and full of like yucky stuff. Money is the same. So money is meant to move. It is a whole energetic flow system. And so that doesn't mean if you have money in the bank and you have prudent reserves and like you have money in investments that there's a problem, but it is to start thinking about like, how could I run the current through my life to then move towards essentially investing in the world in a way that's in alignment with my values and my commitments.
Right, because there are places in the world that need that money. And if you're the one holding it, then by all means.
If you're sitting there spending your energy and time feeling guilty about your inheritance, you are helping exactly zero people.
The other thing that I'm learning, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm learning from you is that, when you're dysregulated, when you are in a shame spiral, when you are feeling guilty, you're way more likely to run through CVS buying shit you don't need.
Yeah.
But trust me, CVS does not need your money, as much as, someone else might. So I think the idea that I'm learning is that when we can regulate our systems through these body-based practices, which I find brilliant, we can put our money towards places that we can feel good about and that the world itself can heal around.
Yeah, that we can use our money as a living prayer towards the vision we would like to leave for our kids. And that comes down to how do we spend our money? And like, we can get more refined about this over time. Like, the first step is just to get a little bit conscious about, I used to be a profound financial avoider. So I just didn't look at it. And I just thought like, you just are, if I don't look at it, then like more will come in. Somehow I thought like abundance mentality was like not paying attention, that like if I was paying attention, it meant I was in lack consciousness.
Well, someone else in that Q&A call said, well, when I look at it, it gets worse. And all I could think was like, when I used to count calories, every time I would count calories, I would like really go over the calories Because when you said your response to that was sometimes things get worse before they get better. Because when you
Sometimes they
do,
and it depends on how we're doing it, right? So are we looking at our money from a place of freak out and when we're dysregulated and feeling like I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm judging myself, oh God, there's a problem? Or are we looking at it from the perspective of just like, oh, cool, like let me open the fridge and see what's in here. So if we can find practices to find a place of neutrality, which is same as nervous system regulation or, adjacent, then we can approach our money steps from more of a neutral place. And that does change the results. Like the way we do things really impacts the result we get. So it's not just about what are the action steps. It's about how are we showing up for the action steps? Because the way we feel as we're doing something really impacts what we get when we do it.
Can you tell me more about that? Because it sounds woo-woo, but is it more practical than I really am thinking?
Yeah. So like, let's pretend you
Not
were
that
going
woo-woo
in
is
for an
necessarily
audition, right?
Let's say.
So let's say in a hypothetical life, you were auditioning for something. And so you go into the audition and you have had a fight with your partner and like your kids were screaming and wouldn't put their shoes on. And then you forgot your keys and you spilled your coffee on your outfit. And then you're just like, oh, life isn't going my way. Nothing goes my way. I'm people think these things, right? Like I'm cursed. I'm whatever, right? Like,
of course.
Right. And maybe your language isn't I'm cursed, but like, why does nothing ever go my way?
Sure.
What's wrong with me? I'm such a fuck up, whatever. Oops. Anyway.
I really, no,
Okay.
we've cursed a plenty amount of times.
Okay, great.
So far.
So then you go into the audition and there's a certain energy of you around you as you walk out on stage.
Also
and
just the sound of my voice, like the stomping.
There's a certain energy. There's a certain way that our thoughts do create biochemical reactions, and that our energy and the way we're rushing or not rushing, the way we're breathing or not breathing, the clenching or not, like all of those things do create biochemical reactions in our bodies. And then those biochemical reactions, I mean, yes, there's like changes your aura and all these other things, and that's energetic. But
not that I don't mean to discount them. I only mean to reach out to whoever's not into it.
In a 3D way, like, you can either take the time to reset yourself and change the way you're going to show up for that audition, or you can show up for that audition and bring everything with you, and everyone in that room is going to feel it.
So, by the way, oh my God, I went into ABC once and I was like, ask me if I ever went in again. Because I like couldn't get down the stairs because there was so much snow and I was nervous. There was like a big pilot audition. And what was I thinking? Like off-gassing my toxic load on the casting director.
But we all do
it. I mean, we've all done it.
We're dysregulated.
I was dysregulated.
We don't have the bandwidth. And like, listen, like I know in your business, I don't know as much about your business, but like in
you kind of
the business of entertainment. Yeah. Like we know people who get word on the street that they're awful to work with.
By the way, they're nervous. I just realized that those people who are awful to work with, like, and I've met them and I've hung out with them and blah, blah, blah. They're nervous. Yeah. They're dysregulated. Right. They want so badly to do well. Right. I mean, last night, people that I have known for a long time, I could see them go shrink. They're brilliant on stage. Right. Brilliant, beautiful, generous. And they were just nervous.
Because no one's
and they were saying shitty, mean things, but like...
Yeah, I know. But usually, like, we do shitty, mean things
because we're dysregulated.
Or like also, dysregulated because we are up against being at the edge of our capacity.
Oh, tell me about the capacity. And then we do have to round out.
Okay, great. Wow.
I know it's fast.
But we did go a lot of places.
Yeah.
So Tel Darden, who's one of my favorite somatics nervous system teachers, talks about something she calls the range of resonance. And I've also heard of it talked about as the range of capacity or the range of regulation. But I really like the word resonance.
Yeah.
So the range of resonance is like your nervous system's capacity to experience something new or unusual and have a suppleness and sort of like a trampoline and be able to like boing.
I see that in you so much, Kate.
Thank you.
It's such a gift.
So when we don't when we're out of our range of resonance, we go into hyper, which is like hyperactivity. Let me go into like, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I'm going to clean the grout of my bathroom with a Q-tip, like that sort of behavior. Or hypo, which is like, I'm under the covers for 3 days and I'm in collapse. So there's hypo.
I love that one.
And there's hyper.
Yeah,
And some
I've
of
never
us,
cleaned a day in my life.
Some of us do both.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But some of us are more one leaning or the other. And
yeah.
So the hypers are more fight, flight. The hypos are more freeze fawn in terms of sympathetic nervous system responses, which is sympathetic is like we're freaked out. Parasympathetic is I'm safe. So our desire is to regulate ourselves, not so that we're always calm, but so that we always feel like, not always, but like as much as possible, we feel like we are at choice with the way we're responding to life. And that is your range of resonance, your capacity building. So like when people act like assholes, it's because they're usually at the edge of their capacity and no one told them and they don't have the tools because most of our parents had no idea either. And they were also raising us in a dysregulated state. And so, it's no one's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I know this more. I don't know if you feel this way, and I know we only have 5 minutes, but I do feel like when I see my kids dysregulated, and I can have compassion for them, and I can say like, the other day the sky was literally orange, and my son is this like bright. I mean, my daughter also. They were like freaked out, and they were with my mom, and I told her, I was like, get their hands in baking. I don't care. I could see their dysregulation. Yeah, I could
manual.
I could see their dysregulation. I could be compassionate about it. Yeah. Were they being assholes? I mean, the naked eye. To the naked eye, yeah.
It depends on what story you're telling about.
Right, exactly. So when I see adults acting the same way, and it doesn't really matter how old they are, I don't have to say it's not okay.
No.
To be rude or mean or come into the casting director and dump my problems onto her. It's not okay. But now I have an idea of why that's happened.
Yeah.
And for my own self, and I'm still working on it. It's still something you work on every day. It's not like,
Yeah, no, it's like brushing your teeth. You don't just do it once. Like nervous system regulation is daily hygiene.
Yeah. So we work on it. And the more compassion we have for someone else, the more we realize like that's their skin, that's their aura, that's their stuff.
Right.
I have my own.
Yeah. And here's what's so cool. The only way we could possibly ever hope to change somebody, which we never will, but if we were to ever inspire somebody or rub off on them, because I get this question a lot, like, what if my husband isn't into personal development? Like, I want to do all this stuff, but my partner this, or my mom that, or like, da-da-da. You just have to keep your eyes on your own paper. However, the really cool thing is regulated people regulate people.
Yeah, I see that in you. You're the tuning fork in your family and also in your business.
I'm not every day, but I do my best.
Where are you doing your best these days so we can find you?
So Instagram's a great place to connect at Kate Northrup. And you can also, if you're feeling like any kind of pressure in your life around time or money or productivity or your career, I have a pressure relief kit that I created. It's free, and you can go over to katenorthrup.com and you can download it. And it is 6 of my favorite strategies for relieving pressure without your external circumstances needing to change. And number 6 is about your nervous system. So I'll give you like a specific practice to try in there.
Cool. I'm so glad, Kate. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
It's
so fun.
I'm going to see you every week for the next year. You won't see me, but I'm really grateful for Relaxed Money and for everything you do. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being you. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. My name is Daniella Rabbani. I am your host, and I would love to continue this conversation at Daniella Rabbani on Instagram. And if you'd be so kind to rate and review, share this podcast, I would be just really grateful. Catch you next time, every Tuesday on the Mom Curious podcast. Produced by Hoff Studios. You can find them at Hoff Studios on Instagram as well. All right, have a great day.